Hello. So today our topic is going to be, well, it started out with fungus, and I really wanted to isolate fungus from yeast, although if you guys were to research it, you will find them together and slightly synonymous, although they are different in a lot of ways physically and also emotionally. So I will wrap them together in this conversation. So we'll start with fungus. So fungus, when you think of fungus in our regular day life, most of us think of mushrooms or mold, right? And typically the environments that are required in those things are places that are stagnant, typically dark, and have some amount of moisture on a regular basis. So that's true in the body as well, not just outside under mulch and dirt and all that sort of stuff, but actually in the body. And fungus can be anywhere in the body. If you're a woman, you know fungus, yeast, conversations around the genitals can happen often, although so those are yeast infections typically. Fungus and yeast can also be seen in the mouth, on the skin, on the male genitals as well, foot fungus, under the toenails, that kind of thing. And typically with yeast and fungus, there is some sort of discharge, typically whitish. Typically there's some sort of smell, and typically it's itchy or hot, sense of being hot. So what throws off the body to have to create fungus or yeast? So we have stress, first of all, because stress changes the pH of our body, and each organ has a certain pH that's required. So if, for example, you are working very long days and do not take breaks and do not drink your water, your body pH goes up, and then the urinary tract can be out of balance and cause that, if you're a female, can cause vaginal yeast or fungus. So it can be even as simple as staying in sweaty clothes for too long. Some people can be susceptible to a yeasty, fungal-y kind of rash. Certainly if your feet stay moist and don't air out throughout the day, that can create fungus or yeast around the toes or in the under the toenails. And let's see, what else? Alcohol can throw off the body's pH in order and add fungus and yeast. Contraceptives, whether that's oral or internal, can also. Allergies can create them. Excessive antibiotics can take that to that level as well. The small intestines, large intestines can definitely and most likely get thrown off, and people just don't necessarily feel burning or discomfort in the small intestines because it's just not that kind of an organ. And so you want to check, and we've already had our poop talk, but you want to check and see if your bowels, especially while you're on antibiotics, if your excrement starts smelling differently, then you may want to consider taking a round of probiotics as soon as you can. Corticosteroids can also create this problem. So it really sugars for sure, right? For sure. And Alcohol and sugars kind of go hand in hand because beer is actually extremely high in sugar. You know when you see older men with really hard and firm beer bellies? Yeah, that's a lot of yeast in there. So anything that makes yeast will create yeast, right? So breads, sugars, that sort of thing. So anything that would grow in a petri dish over time is going to be a problem. And it isn't just that all those conditions will cause a problem all the time. It's really, it's an opportunistic. Fungus and yeast are very opportunistic. If they find the right time and the right place, they will grow like that. So we have to pay attention. Especially if you have folds in your skin, yeast and fungus can develop very quickly in those areas. One of the biggest issues in obesity is actually the fungus and yeast, and it starts like actually eating away the skin. So pay attention. And so those are some of the causers of fungus and yeast. And so you want to pay attention, always want to pay attention to your body, but those are some of the indicators, where to look, how to see things, especially if it's rash and has a bit of a warm and oozy kind of energy, feel to it, then you want to check that out. So the things that would help, there are certainly over-the-counter stuff, which don't really talk about because it's not really my purpose. You can find those out on your own. I don't like, in general, Spirit doesn't really support things that suppresses something. Cough suppressant, etc. Oh, you can also get fungus and yeast in your lungs. Certainly after pneumonia or after being in some place that's very damp for a really long time. And so over-the-counter is out there and you can figure it out. We do not support necessarily suppressors. I know there are times, especially if it's a coughing kind of thing, where suppressors seem like the best thing to do and maybe at that time become necessary, especially if you're at a workplace or whatever. Just be very careful about how long you're suppressing something. And give it time somewhere to be expressive, because you want it out of you. It's the whole reason you're coughing. So if you hold the crap in, eventually it could cause a problem, right? So you want to get it out. Okay, so that's the physical stuff. So you can have it anywhere. So on the emotional side, you can have it anywhere, and it has the energy, fungus has the energy of resentment, and yeast has the energy of worthiness. Okay? Which, with those two things together, you can see why the genitals is a hot spot. For men as well. Certainly if you're uncircumcised. However, some people just sweat in the genitals more than others. And certainly if you have a job where that is part of what happens with your job. So, be mindful. Some of the natural, more natural curatives for the condition of yeast and fungus would be apple cider vinegar, either topically or ingested, even in a wash if you're a female. And probiotics. You can do yogurt. Dairy's not great if you already have a yeast and fungus thing going. So, you want to get rid of sugar. You want to get rid of grains. You want to get rid of, we said sugar, cheese, and dairy in general. And optimally, get rid of eggs for a little while, because sometimes eggs can actually exacerbate a condition. So those are some things to consider. So up the water, up the lemon juice, up the celery juice, cucumber juice, anything green. Get some spirulina, down the green as it grows to help the body cleanse the blood and change the pH in a natural way. Okay. There are conditions also. I mean, my first child had thrush, which is considered a yeast infection, in her mouth. And babies get it, especially if they are born cesarean, because the mother has been given such large amounts of antibiotics. And then through the breast milk, the baby gets the antibiotics and it changes their pH in their mouth. So thrush in babies looks like lots of white bubbles in the mouth and on the tongue. And so there are absolutely homeopathic liquids that can be swooshed and whatnot for that. Particularly for the mouth, that's really great. So if you have a natural store or natural homeopathic store around you, they will have lots of suggestions for you. Aloe vera juice is great. Aloe vera, celery, cucumber, lemon water. What else? Some of the fermented vegetables would be good, also in small quantities, but not much. And yeah, so garlic, lots of garlic. You can also put baking soda. Make a baking soda paste, a little bit of chamomile tea, and then put it on if it's topical, put it on the area. Those are more folklore medicines for issues. And we talked about apple cider vinegar already. Yeah, so that's that. So back to the emotional, spiritual stuff. So the fungus holds the resentment. So there are beliefs such as, I have resentment for blah, 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 blah. I have to hold the resentment for this thing, whatever that thing is. You can kind of fill in the blanks. Oh, yeah. I was working today. I have to hold my resentment in, and no one can see it. I can never talk about my resentment towards this person or that person. So containment of dark, deep memories or feelings that do not want to be exposed to light so that they would heal, right? So that's symbolically what the emotions are around the fungus and yeast. So, and certainly for, such a large population of females get yeast infections in college because it's such a big time of worth and powerlessness and worthy, self-worth and resentment for an act or a decision or whatever. So watch your college girls, college time students, friends, family members, whatever, and really pay attention to their worth in that time frame. Because whatever gets settled in there will carry through, and it can take years for stuff to come out. So it doesn't have to start at that particular age. I'm just saying that those tend to be a heightened time for the emotional stuff to support the physical stuff from being manifested. So fungus holds resentment. Yeast holds lack of worth, lack of power. It's root chakra, so the first center chakra, so it can also have ties to family stuff, old family stuff, for sure. Obviously those have been there the longest. And so any thoughts or questions of what are you worthy of, how much worth do you have for yourself, how much worth do you have in other people's needs being more important. If I am worthy of love, then my life would be perfect. And we don't often want our fantasies to be broken, so it's kind of a backwards way of thinking it, but that's definitely a possibility. There are lots of possibilities for the beliefs that hold those things in place. And obviously that's part of what the work that I do with people is find that specific, what I call equation that catalyzed the need for those types of illnesses to come through. So the most power that you have is in, for self-help, is in the food omissions as much as the food additives. And, you know, it's usually during a time when the body is, you know, if the body emotions are stressed out in some way, then you usually, you know, eat more crap, right? You go for the ice cream, or you go for more alcohol, whatever. So it's usually a combination of things that cause that kind of weakness, and then it can add to drawing of this type of expression. Okay? So that is fungus and yeast. Very, very, can be very difficult to get out of the system just because of there's so much that actually feeds it. The other thing you can do is, I just popped in my brain, was oil of oregano capsules. Those are really good also to help clean out stuff. And so the goal is obviously to, you know, find what's out of balance and get rid of the things that feed it, emotional or otherwise, and support it with good stuff, right? And to support it with good stuff, you automatically have to feel worthy to do that. And so sometimes it makes it a little bit harder because that worth isn't there to help draw yourself into wanting to take care of yourself, but that's exactly what you need to do. So if you get stuck and you're finding that you're not having that motivation, call a professional to ask for help with that, whether it's me or somebody else, or, you know, talk to somebody else and say, help me, I need to do this, but I'm not getting myself there, girlfriend, guy friend, whatever, and ask for the support. Okay? You are worth it. You are worth it. And the resentment will slowly abate as you allow your worth to come forward. If it's a resentment that you cannot process on your own, again, ask for help, please. If it's if you know that there's a resentment in there, one of the ways you can process it is through writing out the resentment, and really just like bleh, right? We call the vomit. Emotional vomit on the page, and really feel it, and then what I want you to do is change that with an image of something in a positive light that would support you through that resentment, so that resentment doesn't have that much power over your thoughts anymore. It could be, without a specific instance, I can't think of, nothing's coming through. Okay, so if you have an image of something that you, when you look at it, you go, wow, that's so powerful. Okay, then after you write something that has upset you, go to that other image and say, but this is far more important. Having this sense of that power is far more important, and I'm going to allow that in, and I'm going to allow myself to be worthy of that energy exchange from that empowerment object. Okay? Is it a cure-all? For some people, it would work very fast. For some people, it'll take a little bit of a practice and a habit, and it's really about, you know, stopping that mind chatter and reverting it to something else, something more powerful, something more pleasant. Because that pleasant mindset and that pleasant vision will serve the body, heal the body, help the body get better. The opposite will lead it into more disease. That's the way it works. At least in my experience, over 30 years, and there's lots of other scientific examples for the body-mind connection. If it works for you, please like, share, comment, share this with other people so that some of this information can get out and help people. A lot of people need help right now, and I can't get to all of them in my little way, so need your support. And I appreciate your time, and you are worth it. I'll talk to you soon.